we we started getting these errors when we would check particular things in. That was oh, I don't remember. It was basically saying that it was the double check-in data problem issue.
Yeah. With the where like if it was a transfer, it might print a second slip that said like no template can be found. That one?
No, let me
Oh.
share my screen. That might be the easiest way to.
Sounds good.
Let's see here. This is what we were getting when we would check in. And when we followed this link to the About page, it was basically saying that there was it wouldn't tell us anything. And what's interesting is we had never seen this until literally a couple of weeks ago, or about the time we posted this, or we submitted this ticket. Turns out that it had to do with, there's a bug listed in here. Here it is. With this bug, 26.136, and they got it on there, but we kept seeing the errors. And yesterday it's finally gotten resolved, but it was really strange. And apparently there were some other folks dealing with this too, because the bug report itself got a high priority and got fixed. But what's strange is we're seeing it on our test server. If I go in and check an item out on our test server, we see that bug. So it's interesting.
How am I now? It works. Sorry about that earlier.
Hey, welcome.
I've seen this. We had this problem too, and it wasn't a hard fix. We only had the issue with a couple of patrons, so we just deleted those patrons, and that kind of solved the problem. And then the patch was applied later.
Oh, so you found a commonality between the patrons. I didn't even.
Yeah, it was an issue where, like the accession numbers for the borrower numbers there were duplicates. They were matched. They were mirroring some other things. So we just, and it was only affecting about 3 or 4 patrons. So we just deleted them and created new records for those patrons, and that solved the problem.
Okay. Well.
And then they applied the patch that kept it from happening anymore. So.
Well, we've had the patch applied, but apparently it didn't clean up some of those things. So apparently we got it cleaned up in the last day or two.
And honestly, I think that was over a year ago that we had that issue.
And I'm sorry, when you say update, you mean to 1911.08, or are you on 2005?
Well, it was after the koha upgrade, the most recent one, but we just probably hadn't noticed it until then.
Okay, so 1911, just
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So, what all is going on with folks? That's the only thing I've got going on. Is anybody planning on attending? I presume people will be attending KohaCon and koha-US virtually. I guess nobody can actually travel to New Zealand, right?
Right, and especially, so they went 102 days without any community spread, but last night they announced there's 4 new cases in Auckland that from people who haven't traveled and they don't know where they got it from.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so Auckland at least is going further into moving back a phase, basically. Actually, I think it sounded like they might be moving back 2 phases and everyone else is moving back 1 phase. Maybe. The article I read was kind of unclear about it. So I'm pretty sure it'll only be New Zealand folks, unless anyone's going to go and quarantine for 2 weeks first.
What's the new deadline for submitting a proposal for koha-US?
I think I technically said today in the last email I sent out, but I mean, really, if anyone gets it in before our conference meeting tomorrow, right after the general meeting. Well, and we kind of talked about in the general meeting, we're going to say they're due right now. If you just know what it's going to be called and don't want to fill out the whole thing yet, you can do that, and we'll follow up with you. So.
How many people here submitted something?
Let's see.
It's not just me, is it?
You're the only one with your hand raised.
It might just be you.
Oh, for Christ's sakes, come on, somebody else can do something.
Can and have time to are two different things.
I don't have time. I'm going to do it anyway. That's the story of my life.
Well, and I have a couple things, at least one thing I can do. But when we talked about it before, we said, since it's the same thing I would be doing at KohaCon, that we'd use it to fill in slots if we needed it. So I haven't submitted one yet. We only had about 11 or 12 yesterday when I checked.
If it was a matter of can and have time to, I wouldn't have kids. Nobody would, honestly.
Yeah, we have 11. Yeah, you're the only one who's at this meeting.
Yeah, somebody here ought to be able to think of something. Come on.
Ed, were you talking last month about like an app that you're making for the library?
Me?
No, Ed.
No, I'm not. Alex is, and where is Alex? He's not here right now. Not Alex, Christopher up in Ajax.
Oh,
Doing it. And he and I've been kind of working with him, but he's doing all the heavy lifting, and then we're gonna borrow it when he's done with all the heavy lifting. So I don't have much to contribute on that line.
Well, I might see if he'd be willing to talk about that. Also, we're also interested in something like that.
In all my discussions with him, his plan is to get this fleshed out in a way that it's easily customizable, and then release it to anybody that wants it, basically. Because he doesn't, of course, he's not going to be maintaining it greatly over, it's just, we're going to put this together and get it up there, and then we can all, do with it what we will, is the impression I get from him. But I had a sales pitch with FE Technologies yesterday. They're going to be presenting at KohaCon. They're out of Australia, New Zealand, in that area, and they do. We use them for we've got a smart bin sorter where you drop a book in and it checks it in immediately. And then there's another Koha library another library that is a Bywater customer that uses Koha, that has been working on using them for some other things. And they're going to kind of do a presentation during KohaCon. He gave me this big sales spiel on an app that that they want to give away until January and then start charging for. And I'm like, why? A tablet works perfectly well with Koha. But they're also working on trying to get the RFID tag ability to turn it on and off through your phone or tablet, which would be a nice feature.
Yeah, that would be really nice. I'm trying to think. Marty first has been talking with some people about RFID technology and some enhancements that they'd like to see for Koha. Because that was something that I think they're planning on getting a grant for it, and we talked about it in the fundraising meeting. And I feel like it was something to do with being able to activate or deactivate the RFID technology more easily, or with a mobile app or something. Do you remember, Jason?
She's got some hardware contractor, I think. She was trying to find a scanner that was like more affordable, and then get the Koha piece developed to work with the hardware that she's found, I think.
What FE was telling me yesterday is they want to develop some APIs to allow an easier transition of that. Now, of course, they're a for-profit company, so they're going to want to do it at they're making money. So
Yeah, so we have 11 proposals right now for koha-US conference. And but we did get an email from someone else who was interested, so probably at least one more. But yes, if anyone else wants to present on something.
So no sharks this year, Jason?
I'm waiting for my arm to be twisted a little more. I don't know.
I think there's a good chance we're going to twist the arm of a lot of the people on the conference committee.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe just some like basic CSS or something. That would be a easy enough thing to do that would be useful.
Yeah, I'm trying to put together like a workshop then instead of a presentation. Right now we only have one. George's very, very basic, or is it very, very, very basic? jQuery.
Very, very basic.
Too basic, too varies. So maybe something report wise, or even like some sandbox testing or something. So, but I haven't figured, or a couple things.
Yeah, I figured we'd talk about it at conference tomorrow and figure out where we're going.
I proposed a presentation and a workshop because I didn't want to do too much stuff because I thought that the presentations would be flooding in, but I see that maybe I should have proposed 4 so that we would, so there'd be enough stuff.
this is a quiet group today.
So, as far as the system goes, the biggest issue that I've had with this whole thing is it would be really nice just to be able to open a library circulation and find rules and click a button that says this library is closed and have that library just be shut down. They're not a pickup location, their items don't fill holds. Everything, that I have to do, if it could just be one click that says this library is closed, because I already know how to do all that stuff. It's just a colossal pain. I do that every year with the school district here and things like that. But that's the one system enhancement for a large consortium that would be nice at the circulation rules level, is just the ability to click a button and turn off a library. So I don't know how anybody else feels about that. I can imagine I know what 3 of the other people in this room think about that. They're for sports, practicing and getting ready for the school year, and then they had like 9 of them tested positive, and so they shut down the entire school. We had a library that had an employee tested positive, and they shut down, and they're going to reopen. I think it's next Tuesday or Wednesday. And we had another library that shut down because they had an employee test positive. And then I had another library that shut down just because because of a staffing shortage. They just closed because they've had staff that have left because they don't want to work at the library anymore and they don't need to keep working. And another staff member had a time off scheduled to go to an out-of-town event, which sounds crazy to me, but they're going to be gone all this week, so they actually physically don't have anybody to go into the building and open the doors this week. So those are the kinds of things that I've had to shut down and reopen for. But I think almost all of our libraries are open. either fully open or they're open for some kind of limited service where they're metering the number of people in the building. And we almost the whole time for drive-through service.
Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca. I'm new to the group. I work in Arlington Public Library with Jeff, who's on the call as well. Thank you for having the meetings. It's good. It's nice to hear everyone's comments and concerns. Arlington's been closed since March, and we reopened one location for hold pickup, contactless hold pickup in our auditorium, and that's open 7 days a week. But we currently have 2 branches that are semi-permanently closed due to construction and renovations. So right now we're just operating out of one location. I can't remember how many hours, I want to say like 25 to 30 hours. And we're seeing about 1,200 people average a day coming in to check out materials, renew their stuff and returns. So it's different being in the highly population density area. Everything's still kind of closed up here, but we're coming back online. Ed, you were talking about being in Texas and how everything's open. And I was like, I just can't imagine that.
That's Arlington. Arlington, which state?
Which Arlington?
Oh, in Virginia. Sorry, not down the street from you guys. We're over on the other coast. And we just came on Koha during the COVID crisis. We just migrated and started in June. So we're new to the group. So we won't be doing any presentations or anything because we don't know what we're doing yet, but we're getting there.
Well, you can do a presentation on the process of migrating.
Yeah, we've done those before in the past. That's not a bad presentation.
Your experience and that kind of thing is very useful to everybody.
I'll leave it to the experts. How to migrate during COVID.
Experts from experts.
I'm curious to know how long everyone here has been on Koha or your system.
So my system's been on for a little over 6 years, almost 6.5 years now. We migrated in 2014.
No.
No, 2000, was it 2012?
It was April 23rd, 2012.
It was 2012. So we've been on for 8 years. George used to work in my position before he went to Kansas. So he was the one who did the migration here.
I guess we're going, oh, go ahead, Jason.
Sorry, no, we've been running, I think all the Kansas consortiums have been running since around 2008. We're coming up on 12 years here.
The library I work for, the McKinney Public, they've been on since 2016. But I've been involved with Koha for a lot longer than that. So we'll just leave it at that.
Fair.
Well, I'm in Northeast Kansas. And like Jason said, this library has been on Koha since about 2008. But I've been using Koha just since 2012, since April 23rd, 2012, went live in Idaho at the Valmet Consortiums.
At Bedford, we're coming up on our 4th anniversary in October.
And Jennifer in the chat says they migrated in 2013, and jtate says 2011.
Wow, that's
Heather,
good that you guys have been around so long.
Yeah, Heather, 2012. Heather has the distinction of being the first library I trained alone without any assistance.
It was great. You're a pro.
Well, I was still learning too at that point.
See, Ed did Ed's first travel with Bywater was when you came to Asotin County Library in Clarkston, Washington. And he watched Nicole Engard do the training there. And then when I moved to Kansas, they didn't know who they were going to hire. So Ed did a training for me again, like 5 years later when I came to Kansas. So.
Does anyone here use the PayPal payment method?
I'm trying.
Yes, we do. And the one thing I don't like about it is that we have one PayPal account for all 51 libraries. So if somebody makes a PayPal payment, essentially it comes to me. And then I have to regularly go in and give the amount, transfer the money to our account at SEKLS, and then give the business manager, okay, this check goes to this library, this check goes to that library. And because of the changes in the account lines, it seems like every time I go to run the reports to figure out who gets what, the account lines table has changed, and none of those reports that I've written work correctly. So I'm hoping that eventually we finally get to a point where the account lines table is not undergoing changes with every upgrade, because I swear to God, you know, in 3 years, I've had to rewrite those reports 10, 15 times. And they are not easy reports. It's a lot easier now that there's the accounts offsets that the account lines actually connect back and forth to, so that you can tell which payment goes with which actual fee. That has made things a lot better. But still, you know, every time I go to run those reports after an upgrade, they're all broken. So that's my only complaint about it.
And you said you're trying to use PayPal?
Yeah, I'd love to. Our problem is the city got involved.
Oh.
And so PayPal has a government department to deal with governments, and they have not provided enough information for us to send through the legal department to send to the city manager to get it signed and all of this stuff. So I'm dead in the water waiting for all of those entities to agree on what a good policy is. And we're sure once we get that done, the vendor that the city uses for everything else will object, and it'll end up killing it. Because the city uses a credit card vendor for all the other functions. And we're sure that there's going to be some contractual problem there.
The thing that I really like about it is when you pay in PayPal, the transaction is, you know, the account is cleared instantly. We have some libraries, like our Ottawa library uses Stripe also. And so the patron comes in and they pay with Stripe, and then staff go back and forget to mark the items as paid in Koha. And so then you've got a situation where people have paid, but the Koha doesn't think they've paid. And so that's not a good situation, but having them integrated is awesome.
Yeah, that's our current situation. We have a company that does credit card vending for us. Somebody comes in, pays for a book, does something, and then a staff member forgets to clear it from their Koha record, which throws all of the accounting off.
Right.
Because the city financial department sees the credit card payment, and then we, of course, control the report that they see with the library, and when they don't match up, it's a real problem.
Right. I don't have that problem, thank God. No city to deal with here. We have a few libraries that use third-party SIP equipment that's enabled, that's got the payment features enabled, like Biblioteca machines. I have one library that has those. We have quite a few libraries that are using Biblioteca that aren't part of our system, that aren't part of our Koha shared catalog. And that's a nice thing about those, is that you can swipe it in the self-check machine and it talks to Koha through the SIP connection and marks those as paid. So that might be another way to go if you're, you know, for a library with a lot of different locations that aren't all governed by the same organization. That might be a good way to look at it too, is to set up with some kind of third-party SIP integration to do that.
Yeah. One thing is we only have one library left in our consortium that has fines, so it would only be for like lost items.
Yeah.
Yeah, Grangeville's holding out, but
Yeah, of
everyone
course
else
they are.
went fine-free by this year. Or by, I think we were the last ones we went during the.
That has been one of the nice things in the pandemic too. I've managed to talk 4 additional libraries into going fine-free. So the libraries that hold out, though, they're the ones that really need to do it. One of our libraries, not only did they go fine-free, but they also forgave all unpaid fines that were still outstanding, all unpaid late fees, and it amounted to like $32,000.
I think across our consortium, it ended up being probably $100,000 written off. So, I think just
Nobody was
Lewiston
getting that
was.
Yeah.
I think just Lewiston was like 30,000, and I think our district was like 45, and Asotin also had a bunch. So.
Yeah, here in Arlington, I know we've got EnvisionWare's STS cash register machine, and that it's a third-party integration. And yeah, it makes it a lot easier when you can just, you go in there, it takes the money, it takes the credit card, and it interacts with the software. And we had that with Sierra, which was our previous ILS before we migrated. And we've got it working now, even though we're not open to the public. We do have one branch where patrons can call and give credit card information over the phone and pay it that way. Even though I told them, I said, that's not PCI compliant. They were like, we understand, because one of the other things related to your, I'm not sure, Ed, if it would help you or others, we're working with Bywater right now. What we had on Sierra was we had a PayPal provided a Payflow gateway, I think it was, that talked to our bank. And we're working with PayPal and Bywater, trying to get them to talk to each other to duplicate that functionality for Koha. So once they get that done, I'm not sure, it may be something that will help you, I hope.
It might. The problem I am literally facing is the finance department is involved. And now that they have gotten their fingers in it, I don't see them ever letting go of it.
I hear you on that, yeah.
That would have been a really good solution 6 months ago before we got them involved, 9 months ago. We've looked at the EnvisionWare solution, and I think if we went to something that was SIP enabled, we could get them out of it, and they would be okay with it. But we don't have the funds for that particular solution right now.
Yeah, and we just went fine-free as well as of July 1st as part of this transition to Koha and everything else. So yeah, I don't know if our use of the cash register is going to be, in the future, is going to be as heavy, but we'll see.
Yeah. We went fine-free in October of 18, and so all we get funds for are, you know, lost material or printing. And, you know, the nice thing about using something like the EnvisionWare solution would be, that's the big issue, is the printing. You know, folks come in and they, you know, have to print $5 worth of a document. If they could just pay at that station, that would make life a whole lot easier. But as it stands right now, they have to use cash. Since we reopened up, we did go to a 20-page you get 20 pages for free. And we've had a few folks figure out that if they break all their print jobs up into 20-page jobs, they can print indefinitely for free.
Well, we've had we have paper cut from TBS, and it was, I mean, we actually, we're, I think, a sizable budget for it, but yeah, we were just bleeding money on printing for a long time, and it was a hassle dealing with cash, but we found them, and they had as I understand it, I'm not privy to all the details on it, my boss is, but the credit card processing that they used was actually fairly economical for us, because based on the model that they use for for soda and snack dispenser kind of thing. So it's a smaller percentage per transaction. But yeah, it was still to get the machines and get the software, the outlay initially I think was big, but in the long run it was going to pay off for us.
In this budget year, the budget proposals that were due in April, May, we were submitting a proposal to go with the paper cut solution and all of that. That did not make the budget, as one can expect.
Exactly.
We just, we were originally going to pull it out of the budget request, but we decided, we'll might as well just leave it in and have them say no and not fight them on it. And they did.
Right. Well, I hope you're able to get it next year or sometime soon. It's before pandemic hit, it was working great for us.
Hello, this is Janice. I'm with the Department of Archives and History. We don't use acquisition, so we don't, handle any money like ordering things like that. But we decided, since we circulate, but we don't circulate outhouse. So when a patron comes in, they check it out, they view it, and then they check it back in before they leave the library. For copies, we decided that we did not want to handle any money. So the library card that we chose, we did a money stripe. And then we got with ITC, and we have a money manager where they can load money on the card, sort of like a debit card, but you only use it in the library. And so they use their own money and they make their own copies at the copy machine. And we also use paper cut. We have 4 Scan Pros, and we have it set up when they, find what they're looking for, and they process where they put in their copies, and it's like 20 cents per page. And they just put in their card, and it automatically deducts from their card. So we don't handle any cash at all.
We're currently not handling any cash, and we're also not taking any payments for anything. We've set it up so that they can continue to check out, continue to have services. If they've lost something, it stays on their record. We'll address that once we're back up to being able to deal with money. Of course, our director, Spencer, has a wild vision of eventually being cardless. He may have mentioned this before. He hates the idea of spending the thousands of, all the money we do on pieces of plastic that patrons just lose. And there are too many other solutions to that. And so we're down the road, maybe we'll not even have library cards.
That's a nice idea. I have too many libraries to get everybody to agree on something. Crazy though.
Yeah, well, we don't. We have one.
Yeah. Yeah, only one library would be nice sometimes. So one of the things that we implemented when all of this happened is the cart feature in Koha. We turned that on, and we call it the description in the OPAC and the staff plan is recently returned. And I've got it set so that, when something is returned, it says recently returned for, I think now we're up to 5 days after the second round of the realm study. But I know that some other people have had problems with that. So what are the problems people have had with the cart feature if you're using it?
Not using it.
Not using it?
I have a bug ticket, but I have to find it. Our main issue is if there's a transfer involved, you have to check it in twice. Otherwise, it doesn't actually go into quarantine. Or whatever your cart is named.
Right, it doesn't go into cart, yeah.
Yeah, let me.
I think I know which bug that is because I've had some libraries that have experienced that. Which it shocked me that somebody was actually paying attention to their screen to realize something hadn't gone into recently returned.
Well, yeah, and the worst part of it is it's on screen. It makes it look like it did, but then when you look in the logs, you can see where it changed it and then it reverted it back. So there's no obvious indicator that it's not working right. The bug, I think this is it, 25724. I'll put it in chat. And it's pushed to hold stable already. So
oh, okay.
We should get that in the next bug fix. It looks like 1911-09 or on 08
yeah, we should.
right now.
All right.
But that was like the main issue I've had with it, I think.
We haven't had any other issues other than that. I know you did have some issues with permanent location and
yeah, our data was so old it predated the permanent location field, so it was reverting back to null on the older items. But we got that cleared up for the most part. We did have to go in and manually fix a few things. I think we had like 600 items that got messed up that we couldn't recover locations on, but that was a quick fix for our catalogers. I guess the other issue we've had with it is I've got two conflicting workflow viewpoints in my libraries because, like George, we have 47 libraries disagreeing on how to do things. Some of them don't want to check things in until after the items have been quarantined for the 4 or 5 days, which means that Koha isn't going to initiate that cart to shelf functionality until they check it in. So things go into quarantine after they've already been quarantined. And then along with that, holds have been a little bit of an issue. I guess I do have some issues. Holds, the issue with holds I've been having is people were wanting to, whenever an item comes in on the courier, they want to, of course, quarantine it before they give it to their patron. So they've just been setting things aside and not confirming the holds, because when you confirm the hold, it sends a message to the patron that says, hey, come pick it up. Yeah. So the recommendation was to just let it quarantine, then confirm the hold. But in certain situations, that means that since the hold isn't captured, more copies will come to fill that hold. So I've had to, for a couple libraries, we've just changed the messaging. So instead of saying hold is confirmed, it says this hold is processing, we'll call you when it's ready. And that seems to have alleviated those problems. But yeah, there's another mess there.
We like the cart feature. We had something similar in Sierra and used it because even in normal times there's a shelving delay for a significant number of items, and staff wanted to be able to know, oh, this was recently returned, let me go look in the back for it. We did run into a problem with the way it works in Koha because we use Aspen as our discovery layer. They had to adjust some things that it was grouping the cart. It wasn't seeing our permanent shelving location code in there. And so it was, and the way it grouped out things by audience and format and everything, it was pulling that. So Mark was able to adjust things for us and the way we've got our data set up and our shelving locations and everything. But yeah, it's a feature we've long had in Sierra and really liked. And we haven't really adapted it in any way for quarantine. We're following the same process in terms of we let things quarantine. They sit there for 3 days before anybody does anything with them. They don't check them in. Yeah, we don't want to trigger the hold too soon. And the other thing we've done is we've had Bywater change our cron, our message cron, to go once a day. So all the messages kind of accumulate and go out the next morning.
We started out not checking the items in and putting them aside for the 3 days. And then we were manually checking them in because we have an automated sorter. And if you use the automated sorter, it's going to trigger the hold notice. So we came up with a solution of where we have an actual drive-through pickup holds window. And we set that up as a separate branch. And so now we're checking the items in immediately. They go in, they get the quarantine status, and they actually go into quarantine. And then if they have holds, when they come out of quarantine, we're checking them in again, but using our pickup window location as if we'd received it like at another branch. And then the whole note, pickup notice sends. And it's working. It's been a lot to get used to and to have staff to understand all the steps. We're calling it the Texas two-step, trying to get that into staff's mind that there's 2 parts you have to do. We have ended up with holds that things don't go right and we get internal server errors and I have to go to Bywater and have them fix things. But overall, it really is working.
I like the idea of having a separate location to check things in at that's quarantined. I like that idea. For me, that would be a little difficult because I would need to create 51 additional locations. That sounds like a lot of work.
Well, I do have a question. We're going to be discontinuing our phone notification at the end of this year to save money. And we're going to be trying to notify patrons and everything, but is there a way to turn off the ability for either staff or on the OPAC for a patron to select phone as their option?
Repeat your question.
So like if I'm on the OPAC and I'm logged into my account and I'm like, oh, I want phone notifications. And of course we don't want people to, you know, change to phone notification or anything like that. Is there a way to either turn that off, or I didn't know if there was a system preference for, you know, the kinds of notifications that patrons can choose, or on the staff side. I mean, we're going to be telling staff, just don't sign people up for phone. I was just wondering if there were blanket preferences that controlled that.
So do you have like a Talktiva system or something that
Yes.
automatically, yeah.
And we're going to be discontinuing that.
Yeah, that's a,
There's a syspref for enabling talking tech.
Right.
I don't know whether that will turn it off.
Yeah, I don't like, it's in the patron messaging preferences, right?
Yeah.
Where you select text or phone or email.
Yeah.
I don't see a phone column for us, and we don't have talking tech enabled, so it might just go away when you turn that system preference off.
Possibly. And of course, I don't want to turn it off too soon before we get people moved over.
do you have a test server?
We do have a test server.
You can turn it off there, see what happens.
That's true. That's true.
And if everything breaks, then you call Bywater or whoever your support provider is and say, hey, Ed told me to break this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been blamed for a whole lot worse. Yeah, but yeah, I think turning it, I think as Jason said, turning it off, it will probably end up going away. I'm not sure. But are you trying to address this before you turn it off?
Right. So we've got like 1,900 people that have phone as their option. Some of those have an email as well, but not very many. And then I'm trying to determine how many of those are really active patrons, you know, and try and deal with those people first. And of course, if they don't have an email, it's not like I can send a blanket thing to them saying, hey, phone's going away, you know, so they only have phone.
Yeah.
You know what you need to do is you need to find a way to use the talking tech to call all those people.
Yeah,
you need to find a way to check something out on all of those accounts and let it go overdue so that they all get an overdue phone call from the talking tech system saying, we're turning this service off. That would be one strategy.
Yeah.
Does it read titles?
I don't think it does. And I wasn't involved in its setup, but my remembrance was we had to choose certain, you know, messages for the automated voice to read out at, you know, different prompts and stuff. And that we were limited to the number of those we could create. And so it's kind of like, if I'm getting rid of this product, I'm not sure I really want to go to the vendor and say, you know, help me figure out how to do this.
Yeah, I was going along with George's idea. It's like, yeah, you make a bib that says that the title is, we are getting rid of this service, and have it read the title out, but I guess it won't do that.
Yeah, I have a feeling they figured out a way not to tell. Yeah, I can see where Talking Tech would not want that message going out.
But yeah, I'll poke around with some things on the test server and see what I can break.
We had Bywater, we had an issue with one of our notices. We don't have phone notices, so I don't know what it looks like, but the checkboxes on the patron's notification in their account detail, I had Bywater, I set the defaults in the patron record to what they should be for new accounts, and then had Bywater go back and retroactively apply those settings. So maybe they could turn off all your telephone check marks for you somehow.
And I think we can do that, except that if I bulk do that now without providing them some other way of getting a hold notice or something, then they won't get anything, and then they'll come and be angry with us.
Yeah.
But I think once we get kind of to the end of this and we feel like we've captured as many as possible, you know, maybe we would clear out the remainder and set them to something else just because, I don't know.
Yeah, we have all of our accounts set to default of email and SMS, even if they're not getting emails or SMS. We just let it default and fail.
Yeah, when we came up, I think we set everybody to email because we didn't have the SMS at that time. But we have a little bit of an older community. And so we've still got a lot of phone users, but it's going away.
Yeah, it's a good service to have for those that don't have, you know, internet or technology capabilities.
Yeah. It's a cost.
In my experience, everybody has an older community.
Yes.
I haven't been anywhere where people have said, everybody here is under 50.
And if they are, just wait a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe an OPAC message on their accounts, maybe. But I mean, I guess if they're getting if they're getting phone notification, they've got to be checking out books or placing holds some way. I assume they use the catalog at some point and get into their account, but yeah, I don't know.
Not
Yeah.
necessarily.
Yeah, not necessarily. They could get staff to place them for them and just browse the shelves to find things. It's true.
And I am working with a brief message. I was going to prepend some text to the user messaging title on that page in the OPAC that, notifies them, hey, it's going away, call us and we'll help you set up.
I presume you've already figured out how many users you have set to phone.
Yeah, about 1,900.
Okay.
Not small, but not huge.
Well, I'm wondering if there's any, what kind of trail is left in the messages table that says who's getting phone messages and who's getting, as opposed to SMS or email. Because I've never used a system like that, so I don't know what kind of data is left behind in the table. But if there is data in the messages table, you would be able to look at that and see who's actually been getting phone calls, depending on how often you purge that data. There's got to be some kind of a trail there of who Koha is telling to phone, and then maybe you could figure out who. The best person to ask about that would be, if you're a Bywater customer, let them know that you need a report that shows who's been getting phone calls from the talking text system, and then you can target those people because they've obviously been getting messages.
Right. Cool.
And then that might help you figure out, a way to, if it's only a handful of people, you might just be able to send them to, you might just be able to phone them.
Right. Yeah, that's a good idea. Thanks.
Yeah.
Heather just posted in the chat that she's done the traditional bookmark.
Yeah, it's often effective, and our public library will do that too on, colored strip of papers. Oh.
One thing we did when we were doing curbside, and this is not a solution for this problem, this is on the bookmark topic. We had a number of youth services staff who were extremely artsy crafty, and they spent, anytime they weren't helping somebody, hand creating all these little bookmarks. And so we had stacks of homemade bookmarks that had quotes and fun drawings and all sorts of stuff from our artsy crafty folks. And every time we took a stack of books out to somebody, we had one of those handmade bookmarks in there. And it got a lot of positive feedback. All right, it's 12 o'clock. We have gone on for an hour. We can continue, but I think at least I have other things I need to do. And I presume everybody else does. Anybody have anything they want to? Yeah, lunchtime here too. Anybody want to add anything in closing or question that needs asking?
I encourage everybody here to submit a proposal for a presentation for the conference.
I concur. And Heather, you don't even have the excuse of not being able to travel.
If only I weren't completely busy.
Like I said, I'm completely busy, and I signed up for one presentation and one workshop. So,
well, someday I hope to aspire to that level of achievement, George.
All righty. Well, thanks everybody, and see y'all again next month.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.